Banking. A bank is a financial intermediary. It is a place where people deposit their money to keep it safe. This is just one of the functions of a bank. In fact, banking is a business by itself. Just like any other business, bank also needs to make enough money to pay the people whom it employs. It also needs enough money for its administrative expenses besides salary to sustain itself in the market. So let us have a quick look at various functions that a bank carries out. The most important function banks perform is to borrow and lend. Let us understand it with an example. First and foremost, banks need a lot of people to deposit their money in it. For this purpose, they try to offer services to build up their clientage. Also, they pay an additional amount over and above the deposits kept with them at maturity. This additional component is known as interest. But what do banks do with all the money they accept from its customers, small and big? They pool these smaller deposits to create a large fund, which is then lent to individuals to meet their individual needs. Also, corporate houses, industries, infrastructure, manufacturing, as well as service borrow money for their growth and expansion. Banks thus mobilize the savings of people and make funds available to business to finance their capital and revenue expenditure. These could be in the form of overdraft, cash credit, discounting trade bills, and other form of advances. Thus, banks play a very important role in the growth of an economy. A check is the most convenient and inexpensive medium of exchange. On this front, banks render a very important service to their customers. They collect checks drawn on other banks. This in turn assists in development of trade manifold. Also, issue of pay orders, demand draft and mail transfers for a very nominal fee, direct debit of monthly expenses, collection of dividend through ECS are other services provided by the bank. Types of banks. There are various kinds of banks to cater to various complexities of the economy in general. 1. Central bank. This is a banker to the banks. The central bank of any country supervises, controls, and regulates the activities of all the commercial banks of a country. It also acts as a government banker. It controls and coordinates currency and credit policies of any country. The Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, is the central bank of our country. It was established in April 1935, but it was nationalized in the year 1949. Since then, it has been playing a very important role for the growth of the Indian economy. Functions of the Reserve Bank of India. Bank of Issue. Bank has the sole right to issue banknotes of all denominations. The distribution of 1 rupee notes and coins and small coins all over the country is undertaken by the Reserve Bank as agent of the government. Since 1957, the Reserve Bank of India is required to maintain gold and foreign exchange reserves of rupees 200 crores, of which at least rupees 115 crores should be in gold. The system as it exists today is known as the minimum reserve system. banker to government. The second important function of the Reserve Bank of India is to act as government banker, agent and advisor. It acts as advisor to the government on all monetary and banking matters. Functions of Reserve Bank of India: Banker's Bank and lender of the last resort. The Reserve Bank of India acts as the banker's bank. Banks have been asked to keep cash reserves with the RBI. The minimum cash requirements can be changed by the Reserve Bank of India if necessary. Controller of Credit. The Reserve Bank of India is the controller of credit. That is, it has the power to influence the volume of credit created by banks in India. Every bank has to get a license from the Reserve Bank of India to do banking business within India. The same can be cancelled by the RBI if certain stipulated conditions are not fulfilled. Every bank will have to get the permission of the Reserve Bank before it can open a new branch. Custodian of Foreign Reserves. The Reserve Bank of India has the responsibility to maintain the official rate of exchange. It acts as the custodian of India's reserve of international currencies. Two, commercial banks. Commercial banks are institutions dealing in money. These are governed by Indian Banking Regulation Act 1949. Banking means accepting deposits of money from the public for the purpose of lending or investment. They can be further classified as public sector banks. Government has a major stake in these. Social objectives and not only profitability is emphasized. SBI, PNB, IOB belong in this category. Private sector banks. Owned, managed and controlled by private promoters, and they are free to operate as per market forces. HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank and Jammu and Kashmir Bank belong in this category. Three, cooperative banks. Cooperative banks are governed by the provisions of State Cooperative Societies Act. They are meant for providing cheap credit to their members. 4. Specialized banks. Specialized banks are foreign exchange banks, industrial banks, development banks, export-import banks. These banks provide financial aid to industries, heavy turnkey projects and foreign trade. E-banking. Internet banking or e-banking means any user with a personal computer and a browser can get connected to his bank's website to perform any of the virtual banking functions. In Internet banking system, the bank has a centralized database that is web-enabled. All the services that the bank has permitted on the Internet are displayed in the menu. Any service can be selected and further interaction is dictated by the nature of the service. There are many advantages of online banking. It is convenient. It isn't bound by operational timings. There are no geographical barriers and the services can be offered at a minuscule cost. Through Internet banking, one can check transactions at any time of the day and as many times as required. Security precautions related to e-banking. Customers should never share personal information like PIN numbers, passwords, etc. with anyone, including employees of the bank. It is important that documents that contain confidential information are safeguarded. To sum up, banking plays a very important role in the development of a nation. No doubt, the state of banking indicates the financial state of a country.